Turo just dropped some major changes, and if you're not paying attention, these changes could either double your bookings or start losing you thousands of dollars overnight. Guys, don't be too alarmed. Turo is always changing, but it is very, very important to go over all these updates and truly understand them. I've built my fleet up to over 50 cars now over the last 5 years and become Turo's #1 host in all of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I did that through hard work, systems, picking the right cars, and knowing how to run a profitable business. And one of the most important things you can do is always stay up to date on the news, because that's going to tell us where the company is going and we can follow the profit signals. So in this video, we're not only going to go over each one of Turo's new updates, I'm going to give my opinion on what these updates actually mean, and we're going to read in between the lines together to determine where the company is going, what these changes mean, and what does it mean for the future of car rental businesses in general. If you're a host, a car entrepreneur, or you're thinking about turning one car into a cash flowing fleet, this video is for you, because these updates hit your margins, your systems, and your growth strategy directly. And depending on how you adapt, it's either an opportunity or a trap. Today, we're going to break down the 3 biggest Turo updates: new host profiles that let you finally brand your fleet, pre-trip vehicle swaps that save you time and stress, and Turo's big push towards monthly trips, which might sound a little like easy money, but trust me, it's not that simple. Everyone online is going crazy. If you go on the Facebook groups for Turo, check out Reddit, anything online, people are freaking out about some of these changes. And I actually think some of these changes are positive, but we're going to break them down in this video. And one thing I want to start with is Turo's marketing, guys. Have you seen the A-list players they're starting to bring in? So for those who don't know, Turo recently released a video, well, an advertisement with the woman from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So let me pull up her name real quick. That was Sarah Michelle Gellar. Okay. I know her as Buffy the Vampire Slayer because I have a wife who loves Buffy, and I'm not going to lie, I've seen a few episodes, or maybe even some seasons myself, but they're bringing in some A-list actors, and we're going to get to that later in the video, where I'm going to talk about the push towards monthly. But I do like to see Turo investing into some celebrity presence. I think that's going to make a big difference for the brand as a whole. And I actually like this push towards the longer term trips, but we'll get more towards that at the end of the video. And right now, we're going to start by breaking down all of the changes from the recent fall update that Turo gave us, in my opinion, on what they mean. All right, guys, let's break it down. Okay, guys, so to break down these changes, the first one they announced right here that's coming soon is the new profile to better market your business. Well, what does that exactly mean? So it looks like Turo is going to allow your profile to be more like a marketplace or a storefront where guests can actually filter through your vehicles by their trip dates and book directly through your profile page here. They're actually going to give you a QR code and abilities to share your listings so people are able to find you even better. So that means when you're making business cards, flyers, anything like that, Turo is going to support that. So I personally think this is a great move. I've had a lot of people that rent from me pretty religiously, where it's like every single week I have the same customers that come back and forth to use the car to get groceries when their car's down, whatever that is. But I've been doing this for over 5 years now, so I've built quite the reoccurring renter base. And I think this is going to be a great push for them to be able to find the car easier, because I've had a few people where they said, oh, I was going to rent from you, but didn't see your cars available. And Turo acts as a medium for us where we can list our cars, and then they're kind of the face. But I really like this because now they're going to give us hosts the more control and more power over our brand. So now it's not just going to be, oh, I'm renting a car from Turo. I'm going to rent a car from George on Turo. And it's going to differentiate our profile by putting all their past trips and giving us these tools to actually do marketing. I find this to be interesting because I've seen Turo shut down people for doing private rentals when they use their Turo cars on private. So I do private rentals too, but I buy cars specifically for private rentals and I don't list them on Turo. So I treat them as 2 separate businesses, which I highly recommend because you do not want to flag your profile or break any of the terms with Turo. So I find it interesting that they're going to give hosts tools now that allow us to brand and market ourselves almost as if we're our own businesses. So I would say that this is probably a pushback from guests wanting to have more control over the business, and Turo is finally listening. which I think is a great move. I'm going to personally, as soon as this rolls out, get business cards created with my storefront showing my cars and have those for people that come into the lot and they're looking around. I'll always keep them on me. We'll throw them up on our Facebook, our social media. But for the first time in Turo history, since I've been doing this for 5 years, it seems like they're finally giving us control to create our own brand with our own business cards, our own storefront, and our own way to really, showcase our personality and what we are as a car rental company, not just Turo as the face, but allowing us hosts to be the face, which really benefits the good hosts out there like we are and a lot of the people we work with, because it's going to put us above the competition and we're going to have great storefronts. So very, very excited for this feature. And I think this one's going to hit it out of the park, and very excited to start doing my branding with the actual Turo links that they're going to provide. And I'm really excited for this feature. So good job on this one, Turo. All right, let's see what else is next. So Turo is also going to be rolling out something called self-service vehicle swaps. Okay, for those of you who do not know, maybe you don't have a car rental business or you've never done a vehicle swap and you do. Well, this is a feature that I have used thousands of times since I started running this business. So essentially what a vehicle swap is. Let's say I have two cars. I am a Turo host and I own two vehicles. Right now, one of my vehicles is rented with Jim. The other vehicle is sitting there not rented back at my location. Jim sends me a message and says, "Hey George, I noticed an engine light came up on the car and I don't think it's safe to drive." We'll just say that for the example. Well, what I can do is say, "Oh, that's no problem, Jim. We'll take that car back and we'll perform what's called a vehicle swap." And at that point, with how Turo is set up currently, because they haven't rolled this out, I would have to send a link to Jim saying, "Hey, Jim, is it okay if we switch you into this car that instead of your current reservation?" Once I have the car and Jim back, Turo's customer support can then process this transfer, where they will just transfer him into this car like his trip never stopped. And usually you adjust them for the same prices, or you can even go a little bit lower if it was something that's your fault as a host for the inconvenience of having to swap them. But that's how this feature has worked. And I've used it a few other times. So for example, I've had people that want to keep extending a car they're in. So I've had people rent cars from me for years. But let's just say an example. Jim now has the car and he's been renting from me for 2 months already, and he keeps extending daily because he's an Uber driver and that's how he's able to afford the car. Now let's say Jim planned on extending for tomorrow, but I look on my calendar and I see another booking that came in. Well, what's convenient for me at that point would be to just keep Jim in the current car and then have this renter take one of my cars that are not rented. The problem in that situation, though, is that Jim has the car that they're renting and they didn't book the one that's sitting at the lot. So what I do in that case, I would reach out to the renter before the trip comes and say, "Hey, this car's still out on a long trip. Would you be okay with us swapping you into this vehicle?" And that's up to you, whatever you have available. You can give them something comparable. That's what I try to do. And then sometimes I'll give a discount for any inconvenience. Nothing huge, like 5, 10%. Or I won't give any discount if I'm giving them an upgrade. So let's say I take them from maybe like a 2017 Kia Soul to a 2022 Ford Bronco. Well, that would be an upgrade where that car usually goes for about 20 to 30% more. And I wouldn't give a discount if they'd be happy. So the vehicle swap stuff's great. I'm glad that Turo does it. Here's the problem with it. They can't do the swap until the person's actually at the car. And the fastest way to do it is through calling Turo customer support. And I've heard lots of bad things about support. I think they're good overall when you look at the size of a company that Turo is and being able to get somebody live on the phone. It's pretty hard to do. And we're talking about a lot of moving parts. But here's the issue. Sometimes these vehicle swaps can take up to an hour. And nobody has an hour to deal with one customer when we're running a 50-car fleet. Back when I had like 5 cars, sure. But it's annoying. You're stuck on hold. Sometimes you have to call in again because the customer support can be, what's the right word? Inconsistent. You don't know if you're going to get somebody that's highly trained that knows what they're doing, or you're going to get somebody that it's their first day on the job and they say vehicle who when you say vehicle swap, okay? And that's just the truth of it. So this feature, without having to contact support to do it, will make this so seamless. I actually can't believe it. So what they're saying is if you need to swap a vehicle for an upcoming trip due to damage or maintenance or any of the things I just mentioned before, just a few easy steps in the app, you'll be able to select the eligible replacement vehicle from your portfolio, and your guest will have up until the trip start time to accept or decline the swap. So guys, keep in mind, this is only going to be for those situations, like I said, where the car is out on the road and we're offering a swap for a car when a trip hasn't started. If the trip's already started, then you're still going to have to call support. But again, huge step in the right direction. I think this is going to save hosts hundreds of hours a year. I know this will save our team personally thousands of hours. So again, another pro for Turo. I think they're really starting to listen to hosts, and they're really trying to make it more host friendly than just focusing on the guest experience. So hats off, I love it. And now let's get into the new updates to boost the demand here. And when I say boost demand, they're getting at the long-term trips. So they said they're going to start launching some new marketing campaigns here. All right, guys, so I already mentioned the Buffy the Vampire Slayer ad, which very interesting theme to it. So basically they're playing down owning an actual car, and Turo is kind of stepping into the lease area where they want to encourage people to say, hey, it doesn't make sense to buy a car, it doesn't make sense to lease a car. Why don't I just do these rental payments where it's a lot more frictionless and a better cost? And I mean, they rolled out Buffy. I mean, everybody knows Buffy. So I think they did probably have to write a pretty penny check for that endorsement. If I had to guess, I'm guessing a few million. But I always like to see a company investing in the growth and marketing. When you see a company slow down on their marketing, that usually means there's some problems with their growth, and that could lead to other issues of uncertainty in the future. So just them spending the money, I'm happy to see. But here's where I think long-term trips are going. So if you've watched any of the videos on this channel, you know I love economy cars. I do rent some higher end cars too, but primarily it's my bread and butter is economy. I think this push for long-term trips is going to take economy cars to a whole nother level, and I see the future getting brighter and brighter with the Turo platform as a whole. Why do I love long-term trips? Well, number one reason, time. So if you're dealing with 1-day trips, 2-day trips, you're always dealing with the car coming in and out. You're constantly having to check it, for clean it, detail it. And the more guests you deal with, the more issues you're going to have. I'd rather have less guests that rent longer than a bunch of individual people. So I'm renting to like a stranger every single time. You never know what's going to happen. Imagine if you had a rental property where every single night somebody new sleeping in there. Well, eventually you're going to find something in that rental property you don't want to find. And the same thing goes with Turo. Where I disagree with Turo is they are trying to promote heavy discounts on these monthly trips. Sometimes they're pushing hosts to do like 40 to 45% off. Don't do that. That doesn't make any sense. I personally don't have any discounts on my vehicles. Once in a while, I'll experiment with it, but I've been noticing some longer trips without having to do that. So don't listen to them on what they're saying with heavily discounting your cars, but do listen to the signs of buying the type of vehicles that somebody would want to rent for a long period of time. That's where luxury kind of doesn't hit the mark. Nobody's spending $3,000 to rent a BMW a month, but they might rent $900 to $1,000 to keep your Kia Soul or Mitsubishi Mirage, Hyundai Elantra, something like that, that they need just to get to work and back, those type of things. And I've had a few trips recently where people have been doing the monthly, and I have to say I've been very impressed with how they keep the car and just how it's going to allow us to scale. Because right now we have 50 vehicles, but I just imagine that if half of my fleet could be on long-term trips, I could grow this thing and probably double it in 2026, the following year, by just having that stable cash flow, being able to predict it more, and being able to have half of my fleet out on, perpetual trips, as we call them, while we deal with the other ones and getting them on the road. So that's going to help host with parking. It's going to help with cash flow. It's going to, I think, make Turo even more attractive to people that don't find leasing to be as attractive, or don't have the money, or don't want to buy a car and have the headaches of car ownership, which there are some. So again, very excited about this change. And we're also getting improved price filtering for easier bookings. So they said later in the fall, they're going to do updated price filter that will help narrow the search results based on total trip price, replacing the daily price filter that currently is in search. So this new filter will make pricing displays more consistent and help guests easily find, compare, and book vehicles that fit that budget. What I like about this filter is I like to play around with pricing almost every single day if a car's not booked. So I'm a big believer you always have to be in there tweaking things. If a car's sitting, I'm doing something to get that car rented. I'm not letting cars sit there and throwing my hands up and saying, well, the algorithm will figure it out. No, we're going to figure it out, okay? That's the only way you can do any business. You have to take full control. And Turo's not the only option, right? There's always private, other stuff, but you have to understand how all these platforms work, and they all have a set rule of algorithms. So with Turo, what I like about not just showing the 1-day price, you may have a super high day price for one day because it's a Friday they look to book, and say they want to book Friday to Monday. Maybe your Monday's a little bit cheaper. So now when they look at the trip as a whole, it can offset that. So I think that's going to give the hosts that are really paying attention to pricing a competitive edge, because now we're not competing against people on their one-day price. We're competing on a 3 to 5 day price. So when I do my market analysis, when I look at my competition, I'm going to know how to price it even better and beat them. So I am looking forward to that change as well. And monthly trips. So we spoke about those, but what they're going to do now is make them pay as you go. So sure, that doesn't sound amazing for a host. Oh, I get paid as the trip goes instead of a lump sum up front. But in the long run, hosts are going to benefit from this, because there's not many people that are renting on Turo that I've seen that can afford, say, a month or two at a time. So by opening up the monthly trips and allowing daily payments, we're going to get more monthly trips as hosts on the platform. So even though our pay slows down and we don't get as much up front, we're going to get more money over the long term, because there's going to be more people using this. More people using it means more long-term trips. More long-term trips means more steady cash flow and more money in our pocket, and I think we can all agree that that's a good thing. The only exception to that, though, is for the non-refundable trips, which is good. So if you have the non-refundable discount on, somebody books the car from you, they decide to cancel it after one day of the trip, you still get paid for the whole month, so you're still in fine shape. For other people, if they book it for a month and they're doing the day-by-day pricing, they could say cancel it in week 2, but still the pros far outweigh the cons with how they set it up. And I really don't see another way, looking at the finances and how it would make sense for them as a company and for us to make money. So again, I think it's a positive move. And for my Turo hosts out there that do delivery, I personally don't do it, but I've worked with hundreds of people that do. We have some efficiency things going on here, which is great. So now we're just going to be able to manage the delivery settings even easier. We no longer have to change the delivery settings for your vehicles one by one. The updated locations tab now allows you to update your delivery settings by location and apply it to all vehicles that you deliver there. You're also going to be able to edit the parking lot locations and guest pickup instructions for each location on its page. So this makes it very easy. I have a few people who do deliveries at multiple airports. This feature allowing us to do bulk edits, customize each one by location even further. That's going to allow a whole nother level of personalization to this and help them streamline their operations. So great change with that as well. All right, and I want to go over one last change. This one is huge. This just boosted my ratings on Turo to like a 4.99, and I was at a 4.8. They are going to start removing unrated trips or bad reviews on trips from people that break the terms of service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So what that means is when Jim decides to steal your car and total it, he can't give you a 1 star and say, this host sucks. And you guys would be surprised how many people smoke in my cars and damage them, and then they say, I'm the problem. It's just business. It's how it is. It's aggravating. But it is frustrating when you get a call and you call Turo and say, hey, yeah, Jim stole my car. He didn't return it for 4 days, and he smoked weed throughout it, and it was covered in dog hair. And Jim gives you a 1 star and says you're a bad host after stealing your car. And then Turo says, well, George, that's just that's Jim's experience of this, and blah, 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 blah. They couldn't do anything because they're not trained to do anything and they're told not to. Now, those are automatically getting removed. So all of the worst customers, everybody you never want to deal with that gave you an unfair review, if they broke the terms, that review is getting removed, which is amazing. And guys, those are the major updates that are going on. And why do I think they're doing it, right? There has to be a reason. So the finance major in me thinks that Turo had an IPO scheduled. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and then got delayed either by COVID or maybe something internally happened where the numbers weren't where they wanted them to be. But think about it. If you're going to do an IPO, what do a lot of companies want to have? They want to have stable cash flows. All these 1 or 2 day trips probably throw Turo off with what they can say they're bringing in revenue. If they can get it to the point where people are doing longer term trips, Turo as a company now has a more stable cash flow and book of business. So if they were ever to do an IPO, I think it would increase the value tenfold. So don't be surprised if you hear Turo IPO talk in the next year or two. So that's where I think it's going when the gears in my head get turning. I think they're doing this to stabilize cash flows. On top of that, make it better for us because their cash flow being stabilized means us as hosts have our cash flow stabilized. And having stabilized, predictable income is the reason I do this business and the reason I rent economy cars. I want to have an idea of what I'm going to make every single month. And by doing that and these changes, It's going to give us all a more solid foundation to build on. And I really, really see this business growing here in the future. So guys, like I said, I use other platforms to rent cars, mostly on Turo, but do private and have a few other Turo-like sites. Big thing though, keep the cars separate on each one, but this makes me very, very bullish on Turo. And if you're somebody that, wants to know more about these updates and you're just maybe thinking about starting the business, or you're in the business and you really haven't started making money yet, we have something special for you. So we only take on so many clients every single month, but if you go to carrentalcoach.com, you can fill out our quick 60-second survey to see if you qualify. Like I said, we don't work with everyone. We're very intentional with who we work with, and we only work with people we know we can get results. So if you are somebody that's qualified, you'll be able to work with our team one-on-one with calls with me and our team, as well as our community and our partner of networks to help you start or scale your car rental business and help you take it to the next level. Guys, we have an amazing community, hundreds of hosts here helping each other out. We get on monthly calls. You get a coach assigned to you working one-on-one going through your account. And we've had so much success, so many testimonials. Just take a look at them on the channel. I love working with people. Starting or growing it is a great thing to do. So if you're somebody that qualifies for that, fill out our quick 60-second survey, and we'll see if you work. If we can work with you, and we'd be excited if you qualify. Guys, we've worked with some big names now. I'm sure everybody knows Rick Ross, the biggest boss. You can hear from him right here. He just recently endorsed Car Rental Coach.
Big boss Rick Ross, salute Car Rental Coach. Y'all doing it big, handling big business, and keep hustling, keep winning. Boss Rick Ross.
And I want you to hear from one of my most recent clients, Adam Frazier. So Adam has been growing an amazing fleet. Very proud of him. Hear from him right here.
Hey there, my name is Adam, and I am a husband, a father, a full-time vocational pastor, and now a part-time Turo host. I've been working with Car Rental Coach and CRC since about June of this year. Started with one car and have now scaled up to 6. And I just wanted to take a moment and share a couple of the reasons that I've really enjoyed working with Peter and George and everybody over at Car Rental Coach. So as I said, I began working with them back in June. I originally started my Turo journey because I wanted to buy a Tesla and wanted to try to find a way to justify the monthly payment. And as I began to do my research, I went onto YouTube and quickly came across Peter and George's videos and really began to get clarity on the right way to start your Turo journey over against the wrong way. And so pretty shortly after that, I reached out to Peter and George, set up a call, and over the course of the next month really decided that that would be the best first step in beginning my Turo journey, was working with them for coaching. And as I said, started with one car, just a personal car that I listed on the platform. Since then, I've scaled up to 5 cars and planning to add about 6, the 6th or the 7th later this month. And I would say in the months that I've been working with CRC, there's really 3 things that I think stand out to me and have made them really a incredible partnership for me as I begun my Turo journey. And the first is the process. So Peter and George have really done a good job of creating a clearly understandable and then repeatable process. Everything from the automations in the Turo platform to be able to interact with guests, to things like being able to get reviews, the processes for being able to locate your vehicles if they are stolen or if a guest refuses to bring the car back. Everything from the process to check in and check out and documenting and insurance and claims. There's really clearly defined and easily repeatable, easily duplicatable processes. And as a new host, that saved me a ton of time, a ton of headache, and it has saved me a ton of stress. It's probably saved me a lot of money as well too. The second is the professionalism. From the very beginning, interacting with Peter, it wasn't a salesy approach. My first coaching call with George, everything was clear and straightforward. Peter and George bring a ton of professionalism to the table, which again, as a new host, is very encouraging and is very brings a lot of confidence that they know that what they're doing, that they know how to handle things in the right way, and has been, again, just another reason it's been so great to work with them. And the final piece I would say is partnership. At no point in this process have I felt like, man, I was just another drop in the bucket for Peter and George. The partnership with them individually, but then also with the entire CRC community has been really just incredible. As a new host, there are a lot of places that you can go for advice or information, including sort of the online groups on places like Facebook. And all of that is fine. But what CRC really provides is a community of like-minded hosts who are at various places in their hosting journey and who are all looking to collectively grow not only their business, but as individuals, to develop, to get better as business owners and as hosts. And so it's been really sweet to be a part of this community, to be able to ask a question and know that whether it's George or Peter, one of the other coaches, or even just somebody else in the community is ready with an answer and an encouragement has just made this process that much better. So if you're somebody who is interested in beginning your Turo journey and you are looking to hire a coach to help you get started, man, I highly recommend Peter and George and a car rental coach. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of stress, and it's probably going to save you a lot of money in the long run as well. Good luck.
And guys, if you want to get the same results, you can apply to work with us at carrentalcoach.com. I'll see you in the next video.